Some betrayals are so subtle, you don't even notice the knife until you're bleeding out. I learned that the night my brother got engaged. In a ballroom dripping with chandeliers and false smiles, I realized something brutal and undeniable. In my family's perfect picture, I was just a stain they tried to crop out. And the worst part? I might have let them, if not for the tiny hand that grabbed mine and refused to let go. The ballroom shimmered like something out of a dream, gold-trimmed mirrors, strings of lights wound around marble columns, and a floral archway so heavy with roses that the air was thick with their perfume. Laughter floated over clinking glasses, champagne flowed like water, and soft jazz hummed in the background, smoothing over any sharp edges. I stood near the back, by a table nobody seemed to want. The linen was wrinkled, the chairs were slightly off balance. It felt appropriate. My dress was a deep navy, plain, a little too snug around the waist from too many late nights eating dinner over lesson plans. I hadn't bought anything new for the occasion, hadn't felt the need to. After all, I wasn't really part of the celebration, I was just background noise. Beside me, Lily tugged at the hem of my dress, her wide green eyes shining under the fairy lights. "Mom," she whispered, "this looks like the castles in my storybooks." I smiled and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "It does, doesn't it?" She nodded seriously. "Do you think they have a magic tower?" I laughed softly. "Maybe, but I think this kind of castle only has thrones for some people." She frowned, puzzled by my words, but her gaze soon drifted back to the giant cake at the center of the room, a towering structure of white and silver tiers that looked far too perfect to eat. I smoothed my hands over my skirt and looked around. Andrew was across the room, laughing with Clara's parents. He looked polished in his dark tuxedo, every inch the successful lawyer he had become. Clara, with her platinum blonde hair and breathtaking designer gown, clung to his arm like an accessory, a perfect match for the glossy life he was building. And my mother, Margaret Wells, stood near them, beaming as if she had personally sculpted this moment out of marble. Pride radiated off her like heat. She hadn't noticed me. She never really did unless it was convenient, unless it made her look good. I wasn't invited to the rehearsal dinner the night before. I hadn't been mentioned in the program. And when the photographer had organized the family photos earlier, I'd been told, gently, with a smile, that they were keeping it small, keeping it small, keeping it perfect, keeping it without me. I bent down to adjust Lily's silver shoes. "Stay close, okay?" "Okay, Mommy," she chirped, spinning a little in place, her dress flaring like a bell. At least she was still too young to understand the rules of invisible lines drawn in golden rooms like this. The announcement crackled over the microphone. The engagement toast was about to begin. I backed up instinctively, ready to vanish into a corner where no one would trip over me. But that was when Margaret spotted me. She crossed the room with a practiced glide, her heels sharp against the marble, her smile tight as a bowstring. "Samantha," she said under her breath, taking my elbow with a pressure that made it feel like anything but a gesture of affection. "Stay toward the back during the toast, will you?" I blinked. "Why?" She smiled wider, as if plastering over the crack. "Clara's family is particular about appearances. We don't want anything distracting." I knew what she meant. "We don't want you distracting. You with your low-salary library job. You with your single mother story. You, the blemish on our family portrait." I stared at her, a thousand things unsaid knotting in my throat. Finally, I just nodded. Because what else was there to do? Fight? Beg? No, not anymore. "Of course," I said softly, and let go of her hand. She beamed as if I'd passed some unspoken test and turned away without another word. Lily watched her go, her little brows furrowed. "Why does Grandma always look like she smells something bad when she talks to you?" I gave a hollow laugh. "She's just busy, sweetheart. Busy trimming out the parts of her life that didn't match the picture she wanted to show the world." The toast began. Glasses were lifted, smiles painted wider. Words about love, family, and future filled the air like glitter, beautiful, meaningless, and impossible to clean up once they settled. I stayed at the back, silent, smiling when it was appropriate, playing my part. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw movement. a flash of blue and silver darting between the chairs. Lily. Before I could react, before I could catch her, she was weaving through the crowd with that fearless determination only children and fools possess. I took a step forward, then froze. She climbed the steps to the stage. A ripple of murmurs spread across the room. Clara stiffened, her smile faltering. Andrew's eyes widened. Margaret's hand clutched her champagne flute so tightly her knuckles turned white. And Lily, sweet, brave, precious Lily, reached up on tiptoe to the microphone, her tiny fingers barely brushing it. A kind-hearted staff member bent down and adjusted it for her. The music faded. The conversation stopped. The entire room held its breath. "My name is Lily," she said, her voice bright and clear as a bell. "And I just want to say," she glanced at me, her anchor, her reason, and smiled, "that my mom is the best person I know." The silence broke like a cracked dam. Gasps, whispers, camera phones lifting. I felt my heart shatter and heal all at once. Lily wasn't finished. Sometimes people think the ones who stay quiet aren't important. But my mom is important. She's the bravest person here. She works so hard. She makes the best pancakes. And she loves with her whole heart even when people don't love her back. The room shifted. Uncomfortable, uneasy. People shifting in their seats. Some eyes darted toward Margaret, toward Clara, toward me. Lily smiled brightly. "And if you don't think that makes her special, well, maybe you're the ones who don't belong here." The last words fell like stones into a still pond, sending ripples through every polished surface, every manicured smile. She stepped back from the microphone, smoothed her dress, and made her way back to me. People watched her like she was something sacred, a tiny truth teller among a sea of beautiful liars. She slipped her hand back into mine, warm and steady. I knelt down and hugged her so tightly she squealed with laughter. "I love you, Mommy," she whispered. "I love you too, baby," I choked out. Across the room, Margaret's face was frozen in an expression I couldn't quite name. Not anger, not shame, but something close to loss. Andrew looked at me. Really looked at me. As if seeing me for the first time in years. And Clara paled visibly, her perfect facade cracking. The rest of the evening blurred. People avoided our eyes. Some offered awkward smiles. Some nodded, a few even mouthed a quiet thank you as we passed. We left early, not because we weren't wanted, but because we had already said what needed to be said. Outside, the night was cold and sharp. Lily skipped ahead, her dress catching the streetlights, making her glow like something untouchable. I pulled my coat tighter around me and smiled up at the stars. For the first time in my life, I wasn't ashamed of taking up space, because my daughter had stood on a stage and carved a place for us both, not by begging for acceptance, but by daring to tell the truth. And sometimes, that's all it takes. One small voice. One unstoppable echo. The morning after the engagement party, Samantha stood barefoot in her kitchen, hands wrapped tightly around a chipped mug of lukewarm coffee. The scent of cinnamon toast lingered in the air, Lily's favorite, but the warmth from the oven didn't touch the chill that had settled in her chest. She had barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Lily's small frame standing on that stage, speaking words that echoed louder than any adult had dared to say for years. Her daughter had peeled back the elegant facade of that night and held up a mirror for everyone to see, and Samantha still couldn't decide if she should be proud or terrified. Her phone buzzed on the counter again. The screen lit up with another message from her younger cousin Beth. "Are you okay? I can't believe what happened last night. Lily is incredible." There were over a dozen unread messages, some from extended family, some from people she barely spoke to, all of them reacting to the moment that shattered the silence around her. But not a word from her mother. Samantha turned the phone over and placed its screen down. From the living room came the sound of cartoons and Lily's soft laughter, as if last night had never happened. As if a 7-year-old girl hadn't just exposed years of emotional manipulation with a clarity that left a ballroom full of adults speechless. Samantha sank onto the stool at the breakfast bar, staring at the kitchen tile. The cracks near the fridge reminded her of fault lines fine, hair-thin seams where pressure builds until everything shatters. Her life had been a collection of those cracks for as long as she could remember. Quiet, polite, manageable fractures in a family that never really saw her. until Lily. Just then, Lily padded into the kitchen in her fuzzy socks, carrying her worn-out teddy bear by one ear. She climbed onto the stool next to Samantha with ease and set the bear on the counter. "Mom?" she asked, voice still scratchy from sleep. Samantha turned to her, brushing a stray curl from Lily's forehead. "Yeah, baby? Did I do something bad?" The question cut through her like ice. Samantha set down her mug. "Why would you ask that?" Lily shrugged. Everyone looked so serious. Grandma didn't smile at all, and Uncle Ryan didn't even eat any cake. "Did I ruin everything?" "No," Samantha said firmly. She reached out, pulling Lily into her lap. "You didn't ruin anything. You told the truth. And sometimes the truth makes people uncomfortable. That doesn't make it wrong." Lily looked down at her bear. "She said you weren't lucky." "Who?" Samantha asked. Lily hesitated. "Grandma, when we were leaving, I heard her say you bring sadness with you, that you shouldn't have come." Samantha's stomach twisted, but she kept her voice even. "I'm sorry you heard that, Lily. Some people, even people who are supposed to love us, carry their pain in ways that hurt others. But you and me? We don't have to carry their pain." Lily nodded slowly, then rested her head against Samantha's chest. "I'm not sad." "Neither am I," Samantha whispered, "even if it wasn't fully true. Not when I have you." Later that afternoon, the silence was broken by a knock at the door. Samantha hesitated. It was too early for mail, and no one ever just dropped by. She walked to the door and peeked through the side window. Her heart jumped. It was Ryan. She opened the door slowly. He looked like he hadn't slept either, dark circles under his eyes. Tie loosened, jacket slung over his shoulder. "Hey," he said. "Hi," she replied, unsure what else to say. "Hi, can I come in?" Samantha nodded and stepped aside. He walked in like a man who wasn't sure he was still welcome. The last time they'd spoken alone, it had been 3 Christmases ago. A short, awkward conversation in their mother's kitchen about football and weather. Nothing real. Lily peeked around the corner from the hallway. "Uncle Ryan!" she beamed. "Hey, superstar," he said, crouching to her level. "You were amazing last night. Thank you." Lily gave him a shy smile, then retreated down the hall with her bear. Ryan straightened and looked at Samantha. "I'm sorry," she blinked. "For what exactly? For all of it. For not seeing how bad things had gotten. For letting Mom treat you like a ghost. For letting Meredith talk down about you and pretending I didn't hear it." Samantha folded her arms across her chest. "That's a lot to apologize for, I know." He looked at the floor. "I've been a coward. It was easier to just go along with what everyone wanted. Keep the peace, you know?" She laughed, but it wasn't warm. "Yeah, I know all about keeping the peace. I broke up with Meredith," he blurted out. Samantha's eyes widened. "You what?" "I ended it. Last night, after everything. I realized I don't even recognize myself anymore. She wanted someone she could control. I let her mold me into that, and I let Mom treat you like you didn't matter just to avoid conflict." He ran a hand through his hair. "But Emily, God, Sam, that little girl? She cut through all of it." Samantha swallowed hard. Her heart was caught somewhere between relief and disbelief. "I don't expect you to forgive me overnight," Ryan added. "But I want to try. I want to be better. For you. For Emily. For Dad, too." That last part hit hard. Their father had always been the quiet anchor, gentle, firm, and fair. When he died, it felt like the only person who truly saw Samantha had vanished with him. Samantha took a long breath. "You're welcome to try." Ryan looked up, eyes glassy. "Thank you." There was a long pause between them, not heavy, but tentative. Like a bridge being rebuilt, one cautious step at a time. Over the next few days, the waves of impact kept rolling in. Samantha received a voicemail from her Aunt Grace, someone who had always stayed neutral. "I just wanted to say I saw what happened, and I'm sorry for not speaking up sooner. You deserved better. That little girl of yours, she's something special." Another message came from Uncle Henry. "Your father would have been so proud of you, Sam. And proud of that granddaughter of his, too." But still no word from her mother. Samantha told herself it didn't matter. Except it did. She wanted to be the kind of person who didn't care. But the truth was, every day that passed without acknowledgement from her mother felt like another confirmation that she had always been unwanted, unwelcome. And then, on Friday evening, the doorbell rang again. This time, it was her mother. Samantha stared at her mother through the thin space between the door and its frame, unsure if she had imagined her into existence. The last person she expected to see tonight, perhaps ever, was standing on her doorstep, holding a tin of shortbread cookies wrapped in cellophane in silence. "Hi," her mother said softly, voice more uncertain than Samantha had ever heard it. The world outside was washed in the dull glow of early evening. Street lamps buzzed faintly to life behind her mother's shoulder, and the wind picked up the edge of her cardigan like it was trying to tug her away. Samantha blinked. "Mom, can I come in?" Just for a few minutes. It had been nearly a year since her mother last visited. And that had been brief. A tense 10-minute drop-off for Lily's birthday, no hugs, no eye contact, just a gift bag and a polite smile. This time, there was no occasion, no excuse. Samantha stepped aside slowly. "Okay, for a few minutes." Her mother entered carefully, like the house itself might reject her. Her eyes scanned the space, the old bookshelf by the door, Lily's drawings taped to the fridge, the familiar wooden photo frame on the hallway table with a picture of Samantha holding baby Lily on the day they were discharged from the hospital. Her mother paused at the sight of it, her lips pressing into a thin, unreadable line. "I brought these," she said, holding up the cookie tin like a peace offering. Samantha took it silently and placed it on the kitchen counter. She didn't open it. Lily poked her head from behind the living room doorway. "Grandma?" Her mother turned, her face softening. "Hello, sweetheart." Lily walked up slowly. "Are you mad at Mommy?" The question hung in the air, unfiltered and pure. Her grandmother knelt slightly, smoothing the wrinkles from her pants. "No, darling. I'm not mad. Not anymore." Samantha's heart clenched at those last two words. "Not anymore." She cleared her throat. "Lily, why don't you go draw something in your room? We'll come get you soon." Lily nodded and gave her mother's hand a squeeze before skipping down the hall. Once she was out of earshot, Samantha turned to her mother. "I wasn't expecting you." "I know," her mother said, clasping her hands together. "I wasn't sure I should come, but you did, yes." There was a pause. Then her mother sighed. "I watched that little girl walk up to that microphone with more strength than I've ever had, and I saw myself sitting there, not saying a word again." Samantha raised her eyebrows. "That's not new." "No," her mother admitted, looking down at the floor. "It's not. And I'm not here to pretend I wasn't part of the problem. I was. I let people talk. I let things happen. I made choices that hurt you, and I justified them as protecting the family. You weren't protecting anyone," Samantha said, her voice firmer now. "You were keeping things convenient for you." Her mother nodded slowly. "You're right." Samantha waited for the usual defense, the justifications, the deflections. But they never came. "I didn't know how to love you properly," her mother whispered. "After your father died, everything in me froze. You reminded me so much of him, his quiet, his stubbornness, his strength, and I didn't know how to handle it. I thought pushing you aside would keep my grief from swallowing me whole." Samantha folded her arms. "So you froze me out instead." Her mother's eyes welled. "Yes, and I hate myself for it." It was the first time in over 30 years Samantha had heard her mother express shame without lashing it outward. "I thought if I could love Ryan hard enough, fix everything around him, maybe the hole would close. But I made him the center of our family and let you drift further out until you were on the edge of everything." Samantha swallowed the lump in her throat. "You let Meredith insult me. You stood by while I was excluded from pictures, kept off the stage, treated like a ghost. I did. You told people I was bad luck." Her mother shook her head, voice cracking. "I never said that." "You didn't have to," Samantha said. "You let others say it, and you never stopped them." Her mother looked at her hands, then at the floor. "I know, and I see now what that silence cost you." There was a long pause. "I'm not here for forgiveness," her mother said at last. "I don't deserve that. I just wanted you to know. I see it now, all of it. What I did, what I allowed, and what I lost because of it." Samantha stared at her, trying to decide whether the ache in her chest was sadness or some strange, brittle form of relief. "You didn't just lose me," Samantha said. "You almost lost Lily, too," her mother winced. "I know, and that terrifies me." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small photo, one of Samantha and Lily from last Christmas, sitting on the couch in matching pajamas, both laughing. It was a photo Beth had taken and posted on social media. Her mother must have printed it out. "I keep this with me," she said quietly. "I look at it when I start to forget what matters." Samantha didn't know what to say to that. The gesture was so small, so late, but honest in a way that left no room for performance. "I won't push you," her mother added. "But if you ever decide you want to try again, I'm here, even if it's just for Lily." Samantha's voice was soft but steady. "It won't be just for Lily. If we do this, it's for both of us, on new terms." Her mother nodded. "Of course." Another pause. And then she turned to leave. Just before opening the door, she looked back one more time. "She's amazing, Samantha. That little girl is going to change the world." Samantha's voice cracked for the first time all night. "She already has." The door clicked shut behind her mother, and Samantha stood in the quiet for a long moment, breathing in the stillness. She didn't know what the future would hold between them. There was too much history, too many wounds to pretend things could be mended overnight. But maybe the healing had started. Acknowledging the pain was the first real step. Later that night, she found Lily asleep with a crayon in her hand and half a drawing of their family under the covers, just the two of them, standing hand in hand. Samantha pulled the blanket up and kissed her daughter's forehead. "Thank you," she whispered. And for the first time in years, Samantha felt not just seen but whole. 2 days after the engagement party, Samantha sat on the back porch, with her hands wrapped around a cup of peppermint tea, the steam curling against the chill of early morning. The yard was quiet, no footsteps, no laughter, just the soft creaking of a wind chime Beth had hung on the porch last spring. A soft clang, then silence. Over and over, like breath and memory. Lily was still asleep upstairs. Samantha could hear her occasional sleepy murmur through the baby monitor they still used, sometimes not out of necessity, but out of comfort. It reminded Samantha she wasn't alone. Her phone buzzed. It was Ryan. "Ryan, can we meet?" "Just us. I need to talk." She didn't answer right away. Not because she didn't want to, but because she wasn't sure which version of her brother she was going to meet. The one from childhood who used to braid string bracelets for her during summer camp days, or the man who had, for the last decade, let silence speak for him. After a long pause, she replied, "Samantha, Tenham City Park, near the benches by the pond." By the time Samantha arrived, Ryan was already there. He sat on one of the worn green benches beneath a massive sycamore tree, fiddling with the sleeve of his jacket. He looked up as she approached and stood. His eyes, red, rimmed, and tired, searched hers for something. Maybe forgiveness. Maybe understanding. Maybe just the strength to say what needed to be said. "Hey," he said softly. Samantha nodded and sat down beside him. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Ducks paddled across the water in front of them. A child's laughter echoed from the playground in the distance. "I watched the video again," Ryan said after a long silence. She turned her head, surprised. "Someone sent it to me. I didn't even know people were recording until I saw it on Instagram. One of Meredith's cousins posted it. I think they thought it would be funny." Samantha didn't smile. "I didn't realize how bad it looked," he continued, voice catching. "You, standing alone. Mom ignoring you. Meredith whispering things. Emily God. The way she stepped up there, she reminded me of you, before everything went sideways." Samantha stared ahead at the pond. "I stopped standing up for myself a long time ago, Ryan, because it was easier, safer. I figured if no one wanted me in the picture, I'd just take the photo." Ryan rubbed his face. "I let it happen. I didn't mean to, but that doesn't make it better. I was so focused on keeping the peace, on being the good son, the successful one, the easy one. I thought if I made everyone happy, maybe we'd all be okay." She finally turned to look at him. "You made yourself comfortable at my expense." "I know," he swallowed. "I know I don't deserve a pass. But I do want to do better." Samantha looked down at her hands. "Why now?" "Because I couldn't sleep after the party. Because I kept hearing Emily's voice in my head. Because when she looked at me and said I wasn't kind, she was right. That startled her." "Emily said that?" Ryan nodded. "After you left, she came over and told me straight up that I'd made you feel invisible. That I had a choice. that I still do. Samantha's breath caught. Her 7-year-old daughter had stood on a stage and told off an entire room, and then found it in her to confront her uncle, too. She's amazing, Ryan whispered. She's the reason I keep going, Samantha said. Ryan turned to her, eyes wet. Then I want to be someone she's proud of, not just someone she confronted once. There was a long pause. I want to be in her life, in your life, not as someone who shows up for photos and then disappears again, but really there. Samantha exhaled, letting herself lean slightly back against the bench. The wood was cool and damp from the morning dew. Then start here, she said quietly. Start by listening. Don't try to fix it. Just stay long enough to see the damage. Ryan nodded slowly. I can do that. They sat in silence a little longer. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't healing, not yet, but it was something. That evening, as Samantha stirred a pot of pasta on the stove, Lily padded into the kitchen in her fuzzy pink socks and asked, Is Uncle Ryan mad at me? Samantha turned around, startled. What? No, sweetie. Why would you think that? Lily frowned. Because I told the truth, and the truth made people upset. Samantha knelt down and pulled her daughter into a hug. Telling the truth can be hard, Lily, but that doesn't make it wrong. You were brave, and I'm proud of you. Lily buried her face in Samantha's neck. Did the truth fix anything? Samantha held her tighter. Not yet, but sometimes the truth plants a seed, and then it takes time to grow. The next day, a message came in from Ryan again. He wanted to take Samantha and Lily out to lunch, just the three of them. No Meredith, no family, just siblings, rebuilding. Samantha hesitated before replying. Then she typed, Okay, one step at a time. The days after the engagement party were strangely quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the loaded, uncertain kind. Like the pause in a conversation where someone is deciding whether to apologize or dig deeper into denial. Samantha didn't expect flowers or calls or apologies from her mother, but what she hadn't expected either was the silence from the rest of the family. No one checked in. No one asked how Lily was doing, and somehow that hurt more. But Lily? She was different. Every day that followed, she walked a little taller, like she'd unlocked a power no one could take back. She bounced around the house in her socks, humming to herself while brushing her hair, writing poems in her notebook, drawing pictures of the stage where she stood with her big girl voice. At bedtime, she would wrap herself around Samantha and whisper, I'm proud of you, Mommy. Samantha wanted to believe that maybe that would be enough. That maybe, just maybe, her daughter's voice, clear and unshakable, had shifted something in the universe that could not be undone. But life, as always, had its own rhythm. On Thursday morning, the front doorbell rang. Samantha wasn't expecting anyone. She peeked through the peephole and froze. It was Ryan, standing awkwardly on the porch, a grocery bag in one hand and a child-sized bouquet of daisies in the other. She hesitated before opening the door, her heart ricocheting somewhere between protective and hopeful. Hi, he said. His voice was quieter than usual, his eyes softer. Samantha didn't say anything at first. She just looked at him, and then at the bouquet. For Lily, he added quickly, holding it out like a peace offering. She was brave. She deserves flowers. Samantha took a breath, then stepped aside. Come in. Inside, everything felt too quiet. Ryan put the bag down on the kitchen counter like he belonged there, like he used to, before the wedge of years and silence had split them apart. I brought you those rosemary crackers you liked, he said, not meeting her eyes. And chocolate milk, for Lily. Samantha studied him. Why are you really here? He sat at the edge of a chair, elbows resting on his knees. Because I owe you, and I'm sorry I waited this long to realize it. Samantha leaned against the wall, arms crossed. You stood next to Meredith while she treated me like a disease, like I was something that would taint her party. Ryan flinched. I know. I didn't. I didn't see it. Not like that. But I should have. There was a beat of silence. Then he looked up, eyes damp. You raised me after Dad died. You sat with me every time I had a nightmare. You bought me my first pair of basketball shoes. I remember. I remember all of it now. She didn't cry. Not this time. Why now? She asked. Because my daughter reminded me who raised me right, he said. And because if I marry someone who would rather erase the people who matter than understand them, then what does that make me? Samantha sat down across from him. So, what are you going to do? He looked down at his hands. I called off the engagement. Samantha's breath caught. I couldn't go through with it, he said. Not after what Emily said. Not after the look on your face. Samantha didn't say anything for a while, just sat there, stunned. Finally, she asked, Did Mom say anything? He shook his head. She's still pretending like none of it happened. Said she was embarrassed by the scene. Asked me if I'd apologized to Meredith yet. Samantha scoffed. Of course she did. But then he added, Uncle James called me. Said he saw the video someone uploaded. Said he never knew what you'd been dealing with. He wants to talk to you. Her eyes widened. James? He hasn't spoken to me in 10 years. Ryan nodded. I think people are finally starting to see things. Really see them. It was a small step, but it was something. Later that evening, after Ryan left, Samantha found Lily curled up on the couch with her drawings again. She had drawn the engagement party, or at least a child's version of it. Stick figures with overlarge heads, Samantha in her purple dress, Lily with a cape, Meredith with crossed arms. A speech bubble above Lily's head read, My mom is a hero. Samantha knelt beside her. That's me? She asked, pointing. Lily beamed. Yup, you look strong. I don't always feel strong. You don't have to, Lily said. I'll be strong for both of us. Samantha blinked back a tear and pulled her daughter into her arms. She didn't know what was coming next, whether her mother would call, whether the family would finally stop pretending she didn't exist. But something had shifted. A door had opened. A ripple had started. And Samantha was finally ready to step into the light, not because she had to prove anything anymore, but because her daughter already knew the truth. Samantha wasn't bad luck. She was the beginning of something better. The morning after Ryan's visit was unusually bright. Spring in upstate New York was always temperamental, one day gray and biting, the next bathed in warm sunlight like it was trying to make up for something. Samantha stood at the kitchen sink, watching Lily pour cereal into her bowl like she was mixing a potion. Mom, Lily said between bites, do you think Grandma will ever like me? Samantha's hand stilled on the faucet. It was the kind of question children asked without knowing how much it could gut you. I think Grandma has some things she needs to learn, Samantha answered slowly. But how she feels doesn't change how amazing you are, ever. Lily considered that, then nodded, crunching into another spoonful. That afternoon, a letter arrived. It wasn't from Ryan. It wasn't from her mother either. It was from Meredith. Samantha stood on the porch holding the envelope, her name written in neat cursive. She didn't open it right away. Instead, she tucked it into the drawer next to her bed and let it sit, unread, unbothered. It took her 3 days to find the courage. When she finally opened it, Meredith's words were, Careful. Samantha, I don't expect you to forgive me. What happened at the engagement party was ugly, and I'm not proud of how I treated you. The truth is, I was afraid. Not of you, but of what you represent. You remind me that families don't always stay silent, that some people can't be controlled. I wanted the perfect life, and I thought if I ignored the cracks, I could pretend they didn't exist. But your daughter, she broke that illusion. And somehow, I think that's what real family is supposed to do. It wasn't quite an apology, but it wasn't nothing either. Samantha read the letter once, then again. She didn't know what she felt. Not rage, not peace, something in between. Like someone had finally admitted a truth that had long been obvious to her, but invisible to everyone else. She didn't respond, not because she was bitter, but because some letters are meant to end a chapter, not start another. That weekend, Samantha took Lily to the Saturday farmers market near the center of town, the kind where everyone knew everyone, where stalls overflowed with fresh eggs, bread loaves, and wildflower honey. It had become their ritual, this walk through color and sound and local gossip. They were sampling lavender lemonade when someone tapped Samantha's shoulder. It was Mrs. Brennan, her high school art teacher, the one who once said she should have applied to RISD back when Samantha still dreamed of becoming an architect. Is this your daughter? Mrs. Brennan asked, smiling warmly. Samantha nodded. She's lovely. And brave. Just like you were. The words caught her off guard. Brave? No one had called her that before. Not really. Not when she dropped out of college. Not when she miscarried. Not when she raised Lily on her own. People had called her resilient, or strong, or quietly admirable, but never brave. The compliment sat heavy in her chest, not because it was wrong, but because it had taken someone outside her family to say it. That night, after Lily was asleep, Samantha found herself at her old desk with a blank page open. She started writing a letter, not to her mother, not to Meredith, to herself. Dear Samantha, you are not invisible. You never were. The problem was never that you were too much or not enough. It was that they didn't know how to love a woman who couldn't pretend. You kept quiet because you thought peace was better than pain. But silence is a kind of pain too, isn't it? You didn't break the family, you survived it. You raised a daughter who doesn't flinch at truth. You turned your wounds into roots. And now, you bloom. You're not here to be tolerated. You're here to take up space. And my God, look how well you fill it now. She signed it, folded it, and tucked it into the same drawer as Meredith's letter, side by side. The next day, the local elementary school sent an email announcing nominations for the upcoming Parent-Teacher Leadership Council. Samantha almost deleted it out of habit, but then she thought of Lily, of what it would mean for her daughter to see her mother standing at the front of a room, not as an afterthought, but as someone who had something to say. Samantha clicked apply. She didn't need anyone's permission anymore. It snowed earlier than usual that year. By mid-November, the little town of Belridge was blanketed in quiet white, the kind of snow that made the world feel hushed and soft, like the universe itself was taking a breath. Samantha stood by the window, her coffee cooling in her hands, watching Lily chase Penny, their golden retriever, through the backyard in clunky snow boots. Penny barked happily, clumps of snow flying as she skidded and spun. Lily's giggles rang out like bells. There was a time, not that long ago, when Samantha believed she'd never feel this kind of peace. When every laugh from her daughter was laced with fear that something would shatter it. But lately, something had shifted. Not everything was perfect. Her mother still hadn't visited, despite her earlier words. Ryan called more often now, sometimes just to share a recipe or to ask how Lily was doing in school. Meredith's letter still sat in the drawer, unopened again, reread too many times to count. But the ache it left behind had dulled, worn down by time, truth, and one little girl's fearless love. The Parent-Teacher Leadership Council had emailed her back the week before. She'd been nominated and elected. Samantha, the quiet one, the black sheep, the woman who once stood in the back row of her own brother's engagement party, now standing at the front of classrooms, advocating for kids who felt unseen. And for the first time in her life, the applause felt real. At the next school assembly, she spoke, short, steady, confident. We don't need to teach our children how to shrink to fit into rooms that were never built for them. We need to build better rooms. The gym erupted in claps. Lily, sitting in the front row with her legs swinging over the bench, beamed. That evening, as they drove home under the early dark sky, Lily piped up from the back seat. Mom, can we help other kids who don't have families like ours? Samantha looked at her through the rearview mirror. What do you mean? I mean, like, kids who don't have anyone to clap for them. Or people who call them bad luck. Samantha's throat tightened. She kept her eyes on the road. I think we can, she said. In fact, I think we should. That weekend, they sat at the kitchen table, crayons scattered everywhere, and drew out ideas. Lily wanted to call it the Echo Room. Because sometimes kids need a place where their voices bounce back to them, she explained, so they know they matter. Samantha blinked hard to keep her vision clear. And just like that, the Echo Room Project was born. A local initiative to build a storytelling and support space at the school where children could share their thoughts, express their emotions, and be reminded that silence wasn't their only option. They hosted a bake sale, created flyers, and even made a simple website. Within weeks, donations began trickling in. Local businesses offered supplies. Parents volunteered their time. A therapist from Albany offered to consult pro bono, and soon that corner room near the back of the school library, once filled with broken chairs and dusty boxes, transformed. Bright cushions, journals, wall murals of kids with speech bubbles that said things like, I am more than what they said I was, and my story matters. The first time Samantha sat in the room during a quiet open session, she watched a boy named Mateo read his short story aloud. He had a stutter, but he didn't stop. Not once. At the end, the other kids clapped. Samantha blinked back tears. Something inside her, something that had waited too long, was finally healing. And one snowy Thursday morning, just as she zipped Lily's coat and sent her out the door, the doorbell rang. It was her mother, holding a paper bag. Chocolate chip, she said, holding it out awkwardly. Still warm. Samantha stared, stunned. Her mother shifted from one foot to the other. I don't know how to start. I know I've made a mess of things. I just thought maybe I could start with cookies. Samantha didn't know what to say. The years of silence, the weight of neglect, it all pressed into her chest like packed snow. But behind her, Lily peeked out. Hi, Grandma, she said. Her mother's eyes glistened. Hi, sweet girl. And Samantha realized forgiveness didn't have to be loud. Sometimes it could be a paper bag of cookies. Sometimes it could be not slamming the door. She stepped aside, just enough for her mother to enter. No more, no less. That evening, Lily curled beside her on the couch. Do you think people can change? She asked sleepily. I think people can try, Samantha said. And that's a start. The snow kept falling outside. But inside their little house, filled with warmth, cookies, laughter, and one brave little girl who broke the silence, it no longer felt cold. It felt like something new, something just beginning.